Okay, and welcome to sunny Queensland and cool crisp day, even though I feel hot, and I just thought I'd ruin it by telling you about the nonsense of COVID-19. I've written you this list, quickly scribbled down. See, I've listed all the points, all the evidence against it being real. Now, let's see, I haven't got my glasses on, but what's the first thing? If I have it in more or less order. Well, this was something that was never isolated and proven to exist, which means creating any kind of a vaccine would be pretty much impossible, especially one that's safe and effective in about 5 minutes. And also, of course, therefore, the testing for it is impossible. That's why the testing kits you used to buy, and certainly the original PCR tests, were ludicrous. They're not designed to test for viruses and tell you whether you're sick or not. And all of the new tests are ludicrous and fraudulent because there's really no such thing. No virus has ever been isolated and proven to exist. There are no, therefore, tests for any such thing. This is completely experimental. The new mRNA technology. A lot of people who have been injured by the vaccine have been refused any kind of compensation because insurance companies said quite rightly, you willingly took part in an experiment, even though, having said that, it wasn't completely willing because a lot of people were forced to do that. Take the jab or lose your job, can't go and travel, can't visit a dying relative, can't do anything. So, pretty unjust. What else have we got here? Oh yes, a new technology, mRNA technology. It's not really even a vaccine. I mean, they had to literally change the definition of vaccine to meet this new stuff that they've been injected into people. And I can't believe the lunatics that have had about 6 jabs and still wear masks even in the car or on the beach or even when swimming. I mean, this is absolutely insane. They were talking about herd immunity, which was absolutely ludicrous. You'd have to jab like about, 99% of the planet, which is absurd. And otherwise, if you've had the jabs, apparently it doesn't work. So there's no point in having a jab anyway, because lots of sensible people will never go near it. Side effects are not made clear. I think at least one of them, I'm not sure if it was it Pfizer or Moderna, I think Pfizer admitted a line about side effects or keeping them hidden. I mean, side effects for these jabs are pretty much every single ailment. The possible side effects are around about every single ailment on the planet. Every single ailment on the planet could be a side effect of the jab, and this is because it damages your immune system, so you can't fight anything off. So you can now be susceptible to cancers, heart conditions, brain tumours, breathing issues, other diseases, just pretty much anything, because it's damaged your immune system. It's similar to like AIDS. Okay, there were no extra deaths in 2020 when the pretend pandemic was, taking hold. There were no extra deaths. They were lying and fudging statistics and labelling just about, even motorcycle accidents or shootings as COVID deaths, because they said if you were diagnosed or positive for COVID, no matter what you died of after that, they labelled it as a COVID death. COVID death. Why would you have to do that if it was an actual dangerous pandemic? People were being paid to label things of COVID. You got more money if you had to deal with COVID. This is a obvious and total fraud. And of course, shame, and there should be punishment for all the people who were literally paid to jab people. Now, let's see what else you've got. Yes, and you weren't just a lot of doctors and nurses were either paid or threatened to jab people and take this absolute nonsense serious. The measures taken, like stand apart, stand here on this cross and stand there and wearing the masks and all those ridiculous expensive screens they put up in all the stores, allowing some people in and out of the country and some people not in and out of the country, completely inconsistent with what we're doing now. These measures were absurd, and obviously they weren't dealing with a real pandemic. People often, reporters, politicians being filmed, they'd film themselves doing an interview wearing a mask and then immediately take it off. It was just for show. Most of them didn't believe in it. They knew it wasn't true. So I've already covered labelling pretty much any death as a COVID death. The government gained, a major factor is the government gained a lot of power with telling us what to do and when to do it, because apparently there's a dangerous pandemic going around. So could all of this just be to gain power, just to be able to tell us what to do and when to do it? I think obviously yes, and it's the same thing with the climate. It's immoral that this was forced, because we have bodily autonomy. We cannot lose bodily autonomy. Once we lose that, once we can't tell the government, well, I'm not taking that jab, I have a right to make decisions on my own body. Once you lose that right, you lose everything. That's got to be the line. And we lost that during the COVID nonsense. Fauci, all the people involved, Bill and Melinda Gates, were pretty much just laughing at us, and I'm sure they only took placebos, not real. They're not dumb enough and crazy enough to get the jab. They know it's very dangerous. I mean, we're not 100% sure what the jab was even for, but we can guarantee 100% it's nothing to do with your health. Right. What else we got? Oh yes, the increase in all the symptoms, side effects, death, increasing cancers, heart attacks in young people who almost never have heart attacks, and heart trouble, and all the multitude of other ailments. They were blaming it all onto COVID and long COVID and all this total crap. Why was the jab, the experimental jab, never even suspected? I mean, that's absurd. I mean, you think that nobody thought that, hey, maybe, football players, healthy, fit, strong, young, dropping dead of heart attacks on the field, and they seriously never suspected the jab. They were forced to take it or they get kicked out. They never even suspected the jab, an experimental jab. It was never in a line of inquiry. That's absolutely insane. This is so obvious. The symptoms of the imaginary virus were pretty much symptoms of anything. The flu, things like when you change 4G, 5G radiation, that can cause all the same symptoms like breathing difficulties and disorientation and all that kind of thing. Countries worldwide did the same silly thing, preparing all these plans all at the same time. I mean, how long had this been planned? I mean, nearly every country in the world went along with this nonsense, and a few leaders like Zimbabwe, I think, their president, and a few other places said this is nonsense and we're having nothing to do with that. They end up dead, and the next person that comes in mysteriously goes along with all the ridiculous measures, and all the people in their country now have to suffer because of that. And a lot of them were places that cannot afford all the ludicrous measures that were taken for the non-existing virus. Flu disappeared. I mean, would you really tell me that the flu's going to disappear because you're standing on a cross here and there and wearing masks? That is absolutely absurd. We know perfectly well that they've labelled people getting the flu as COVID. This is ludicrous. What have we got? Oh yeah, the listing of side effects. There's like about there was a 29-page document listing nearly every ailment known to man, every ailment under the sun that could be potentially caused by this jab. And if they're going to release and another wave, they're jabbing younger people, they're jabbing animals. You know, this is going to be insane. I mean, some of the animals we had, they were jabbing deer for a while, as amongst many other species. And you end up with sort of what they called zombie deer, which just walked around mindless in things that, you know, would rarely ever happen before. This was because they were jabbed. Riots and stuff like that. There were a lot of, I think at the time, a lot of riots and protests for, like, whether it's LGBT or Black Lives Matter or whatever riots, and a lot of them were kind of allowed, but they didn't allow riots or protests. Not riots, protests, let's use the word protests. They allowed protests for certain things, but they didn't allow protesting against people trying to fight for their bodily autonomy. They didn't allow protests against the COVID nonsense, because and the amount of people that know this was a fraud worldwide is colossus. But according to the mainstream media, which a lot of people only listen to, you know, what's right, what their reality is created by what they see on the TV, they don't realise how many people are against this. They think that most people are for this, they're for the virus, that they believe in it, that they believe they should get vaccinated, they believe that they might have to do another lockdown or whatever nasty procedures, and they think that there's only a few people who are just crazy idiots who are fighting against this. And this is absolutely not true. There are millions and millions and millions of people who know this is a total fraud. But the power of the media and the governments is just so much that it all gets suppressed. And, well, I think that's about it. I guess I can sit down for another coffee and try and enjoy the view in sunny Queensland. So goodbye, sheeple.